It is caused by human activity. It is already doing devastating harm to this country and to many parts of the world. That's the fact. That is the fact. Now, you can ignore science. You can bury your head under a pillow, but that is not going to change reality. And the reality that the scientific community is telling us is that if we do not get our act together in a reasonably short period of time, the problems we have today will become much, much worse in the future. And what they say is that our planet, Earth, the only planet we have, will be between 5 and 10 degrees Fahrenheit warmer by the end of this century if we do not boldly go forward and transform our energy system away from fossil fuel to energy efficiency and sustainable energy. And what they also tell us is that if we do not act boldly, there will be more drought, more serious water problems, there will be more flooding, there will be more extreme weather disturbances, there will be more acidification of the ocean. We are doing incredible damage to the oceans around the world. There will be more rising sea levels, flooding coastal communities all over the world. There will be more international conflict as peoples fight over limited natural resources, water and land, to grow their crops. That is the future we are looking at if we do not have the courage to take on the fossil fuel industry and transform our energy system. Now, to me, opposition to the Keystone Pipeline was kind of a no-brainer. If you believe in climate change, why in God's earth would you think about supporting the excavation and transportation of some of the dirtiest fossil fuel in the world? That's kind of a no-brainer. The answer is no. Now, the good news is we know what we have to do. We know that as a nation we can do so much more in terms of energy efficiency, which is the low-hanging fruit when we talk about energy. Just in my own state, which is a very cold weather state, we have put money into weatherizing people's homes. Their carbon emission has gone down by 50%. Their fuel bills have gone down by 50% because they're now using 50% less fuel. We can do that all over this country. We can do a lot better than having automobiles getting 20, 25 miles per gallon. We can be doing cars to get 50, 100 miles per gallon. We can be moving toward the electrification of our transportation system. We can and should be imposing a tax on carbon. We can move aggressively to solar. We introduced legislation which calls for 10 million solar rooftops. As you all know, the price of solar panels has plummeted in recent years. It is now competitive with other forms of industry. In states like Iowa now, 30–40% of their electricity is coming from wind. We have huge potential with wind. We have huge potential in a lot of sustainable energies. We can do this. And as technologies develop, we will be in an even stronger position. Our job is, it seems to me, that from a moral perspective, as people who have the moral responsibility to make certain that the planet we leave our children and future generations is one that is healthy and habitable, we've got to reach out to China, Russia, India, and together have the courage to take on the very powerful fossil fuel industry that Jane was just referring to. Now, I'm not quite sure why, but climate change is not an issue the media pays a whole lot of attention to. And in fact, a year and a half ago or so, some of us in the Senate sent letters to ABC, NBC, CBS, and CNN. We say, how come you have no scientists on your Sunday shows to talk about climate change? And we got some response, and we made some improvements. But at the end of the day, what is really amazing, and media doesn't talk about this very much, and I want you all to think about it, because it leads to another issue. How does it happen that not one Republican candidate for president understands that climate change is real and that we have to address it? How does that happen? Now, I sit on a number of committees. I'm on 5 committees in the Senate, and I sit alongside of Republicans, and we deal with health care issues, and we have experts coming up dealing with cancer, dealing with Alzheimer's, dealing with diabetes. Republicans ask smart questions. You know, we may disagree on aspects of it, but they're not berating the witnesses, the panelists. They're concerned about cancer. They're concerned about these diseases. But when it comes to climate change and taking on the fossil fuel industry, something very different happens. And in my view, it touches on another enormously important issue, and that is a corrupt campaign finance system. Because I can guarantee you this, that any candidate, Republican candidate, comes here to Lincoln, goes to any state in the country and says, you know, I've talked to scientists, I've read the literature, we got a real problem, we've got to do something about it. On that day, that Republican candidate would lose his funding from the Koch brothers and from the fossil fuel industry. So what we have got to do is to tell our Republican candidates for president, worry less about your campaign funding, worry more about future generations of Americans. Now, as you all know, President Obama did the right thing. In terms of Keystone, I will go further. So let me tell TransCanada or any other company interested in this issue, if I am elected president, pack up, get out. There will not be a Keystone Pipeline. Now, this campaign is about a lot of things. But in a sense, it comes down to one very, very important issue. And that is, in my view, the need for a political revolution which brings millions of people, many of whom have given up on the political process. One of the crises that we face is not only a corrupt campaign finance system in which billionaires buy elections, but also, and part of the fact that millions of Americans are giving up on our democracy. Now, I understand why. Many people in this country are working longer hours for low wages. They can't afford health care. They worry about their kids. They look at Washington and they say, who in Washington worries about me? I'm not going to vote. I'm giving up. But that is the wrong answer. The right answer is that when millions of people stand up and fight back and demand that Washington starts representing working families rather than billionaires, yes, we will have real change in this country.
In less than an hour, presidential candidate Bernie Sanders will take the stage at the Lead Center speaking to a crowd of thousands. Thanks for joining us. I'm Shelby Fenster. Not only is downtown full of Sanders supporters, but today is also girls' state basketball. 10-11's Alice Klein-Peter is live from downtown Lincoln. Alice, how crowded is it down there?
That's right. When I got here around 7:30, the line had already started. Now, I tried to grab a spot near the end of the line. I'm at 16th and R right now, but I couldn't because the line just continues to grow. Now, it did start moving because doors are open right now. Lincoln Police say on-duty and off-duty officers will be in the downtown area, not just for
Go as a nation. Again, I want you to think outside of the status quo. Because if you don't get sucked into thinking little, but you think big, then you ask yourselves this very simple question. Everybody in this room, everybody in this country, regardless of their political views, understands that we're living in a highly competitive global economy. Nobody denies that. And nobody denies that if our economy and the future of this country is to be a strong one, we need the best educated workforce in the world, right? No one disagrees with that. And yet today in America, in my state of Vermont, here in Nebraska, I'm sure, in America, we have hundreds of thousands of bright, qualified young people who cannot afford to get a college education. And you all know the reason why. I know the reason why. My family never had any money. And my brother and I were the first in the family to go to college. And all over this country, families just don't have the money to send their kids to college. Now, 50 or 60 years ago, as you all know, if you got a high school degree, you were in pretty good shape. Not everybody did. Most people didn't. You were able to go out and get a good job and make it into the middle class. That was 50 or 60 years ago. Today, in many respects, a college degree in a radically changing world with more and more technology, a college degree today is the equivalent of what a high school degree was 50 or 60 years ago. So what seems to me to be a kind of no-brainer is that when we talk about public education, it's not good enough today to simply be saying, good, we're providing free public education to all kids in America from first grade to 12th grade. That was great years ago. But in 2016, we have got to expand that concept so that public education in America means free tuition at public colleges and universities. Now, is this a radical idea? I don't think so. Germany does it. Scandinavia does it. Countries around the world understand that they have got to invest in their young people if they're going to have a strong future. And the other part of that equation is another insanity. And that is the insanity of millions of people today carrying deep, deep amounts of student debt. Anybody here with student debt? I rest my case. You know, I've been all over this country, and I hear from people, went to college, they graduated $30, $50, $60,000 in debt, maybe more. Talk to people who went to medical school, graduated $300,000 in debt. Dental school, $400,000 in debt. Talk to a guy in Nevada, 55 years of age. He's been paying off his student debt for 25 years. He's more in debt today than when he started. Okay? Not uncommon. This is not uncommon. So the question, again, thinking outside of the box, is does it make sense in a nation that needs the best intellectual capabilities we can develop? Does it make sense to punish people, force them to pay 10, 20, 25% of their income in student debt repayments for decade after decade? Why are we punishing people for doing the right thing and getting an education? We should reward people, not punish them. How radical an idea is it to say that in America, if you work 40 hours a week, doesn't seem all that radical to me. And that is why we have got to understand that the federal minimum wage of $7.25 an hour is a starvation wage. It's got to be raised to $15 an hour.
All right, guys. So I'm not sure what exactly was going on there. That's supposed to be a live stream. It's not a live stream. It's cut up into chunks. I don't know that there is a live stream. There was another group out there that was bringing this to us, the Sanders Ticket. I thought that this was a solid local feed. It's not. So I apologize. I opened up a different live stream. That's not either. This is already passed. I don't know what's going on here. They have it broken up into chunks. And they're just going to keep replaying the chunks. Apologize, guys. I thought this was a live stream. If there's, there might be another link out there on Twitter, but I'm just going to call this one good. We've got We the People coming up at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, and that's going to be with David Sparks. And I'll just plug that while I've got a few of you here. So join us for that, and immediately following this with David Sparks, we will have Bernie Sanders live from Lawrence, Kansas, and that is a verified feed, and that should be the whole event. Not sure what was going on with this today. Again, I apologize very much, and thank you all for being here. Feel the burn, everybody. We'll see you soon.